Hey folks, Chef Cutting here. I want to talk to you about a great recipe I have here, traditional English scones. And they're so good because they can take on the flavors of whatever you want. I'm going to be making a basic recipe, and of course those scones go great with some butter and some jam and a nice cup of tea. But you can add chocolate chips, you could add blueberries, you could add sliced strawberries, you can even put spices in there like, say, cinnamon or nutmeg, and really give them a very original flavor and something that you've created on your own. But I'm going to give you the base recipe for the scone mix, and then you can decide whatever you'd like to put on top. I promise you though, one thing is for sure, don't have one of these scones without a good hot cup of tea.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here in the kitchen, and we're going to get ourselves made up with making our English scone. We're going to start off with 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Then we're going to start with a half a cup of white sugar, 5 tablespoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 of a cup of butter, 1 egg beaten, and 1 cup of milk. And we're going to take all of that, we're going to put it together, and we're going to make ourselves some awesome English scones. Let's get started, get our prep out of the way. The thing we're going to do is preheat the oven to 400 degrees, so let's get that done first. Then we're going to just put a little oil on a pan here and have this a lightly oiled pan. I poured a little oil on there. I'm just going to slather that around the foil. I'm going to combine the flour, the sugar. I'm going to go ahead and put the baking powder and the salt. And I'm going to have all of that mixed in. And I'm going to go ahead and mix that up thoroughly. And then I'm going to start to add the butter. Go ahead and put the butter in there. I made it easier to mix in with the flour. And we're just going to go ahead and start moving that into the flour. Okay, I've beaten the egg. I'm just going to add the milk and pour it in with the egg. And then I'm going to mix that solution in. And then once I've well mixed that, we'll add it to our flour mixture. Okay, I'm mixing up my egg and my milk mixture here. And we'll get that nice and blended. And then we're going to add it to our wonderful cake mixture, which is what you would refer to as a quick bread mix, because we added the baking powder to the flour, and you'll see that the butter has kind of broken up into little pebbles in the flour, and that's perfectly okay. So now let's go ahead and add our mixture into the flour. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add the mixture to the flour now. Just put it in there. And then we're just going to go ahead and start making the mixture nice and moist and into a bread batter. Use a spatula. Don't use a whisk. It's a lot easier to work with. Okay, so I've got that really done now to the way I like it. I'm going to turn it out onto some floured surface, and we're going to knead it for a few seconds. Okay, there we go. Okay, now it's on the floured surface. I'm going to just put some flour on the top. I'm going to knead it a couple times, then we'll portion it up. Okay, it doesn't really take a lot. You just, press it down once, turn it over, do it again. It doesn't really take a lot. So we're going to keep it in this kind of shape, okay? And now I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to cut it so I can make portion-sized scones and just drop them onto the plate. So I'm going to do triangles, so I'm just going to go like this, like that, and like that. All right, so I've done my portioning. I've cut them like I said I was. This end was a little small, so these are going to turn out a little small, but they don't need to be perfect. We're going to go ahead and put them on the pan now. Got a nice little greased-up layered pan here. I'm just going to take them and I'm just going to put them in any kind of real order here. It doesn't really matter. And if you're having trouble lifting those scones up like I just did off that, and the dough is too wet, you need to return it to the bowl and throw a little more flour on it. You don't want it to be too sticky that you can't play with it the way I just did. Now we're going to go ahead and put them in the oven for about 15 minutes at 400 degrees. We have a preheated oven now, so there we go. We're going to get those in there, and let's get cooking. See you in 15 minutes, scones. So if you want to see what perfect scones look like, they're going to come right out of your oven, just like that. That looks just like something out of Starbucks, doesn't it? It's amazing. Let's get it plated up. Okay, so let me show you how we're going to finish this off. We're going to put the scone right on a nice white plate there. I made a nice little raspberry jam with butty there to go with the scone, and a nice small bread knife to go along with that. And ladies and gentlemen, the only thing you're missing with that is a nice hot cup of tea. I give you a traditional English scone served with raspberry jam and butter. And let me tell you something. This is as traditional as it gets. Bon appetit.